Hey, what's up? Today we're going to be working on a 2009 Corvette. We're going to be changing out the serpentine belt and the idler pulley and the belt tensioner pulley. This is only for the main drive, not for the air conditioning drive. So there's two belts in this car. There's the main drive, air conditioning, and since we're only doing one, there's two pulleys for each belt. So when you order the parts, make sure you're getting the parts for the right one. So here's the parts we're going to be using today. It's just the ACDELCO belt, the professional ACDELCO belt tensioner with a pulley, and the idler pulley. So first thing we're going to be doing is removing the air intake, and I'll walk you through steps on that. That's pretty simple to do. Okay, so in order to remove the air intake, there's really only I think 5 things you need to take off here. There's 3 of these right here, just push button plugs that come up. There's 1 here and then 2 on that side, and then we just need to unscrew the clamp and take off the electrical connector. So in order to take these off, it's real simple. You just need to pull up that center pin. You can see that. Pull up the center pin, and once that's out, you can pull that up. You just take that out, and so do that on all 3 of those, and then we can take off the clamp here. Just have a screwdriver that just comes off pretty easy. Just unscrew that, and then the last thing, just loosen that up. The next thing we need to do, the last thing after we get these 3 plugs out, is to remove this electrical connector. Okay, I've taken all those other plugs out. The last thing we're doing is the electrical connector. Now underneath this there is like a gray tab you can see here, and I'm just going to use a small screwdriver with kind of a hook, and just kind of, you want to pull that towards you. It's kind of a locking clip, so you pull that towards you, and once you've pulled that out, there's a tab underneath here where you can push up, and I can show you better once I get it off. But once we pull that out, we push up underneath to release the tension, then we can get that connector off. Alright, I pulled that gray locking thing all the way out, so it'll make it easier to push up on the tab. And you can see it there. Now if you turn this over, you can see this right here is the tab you're pushing up on from the bottom. So once you get that out, you can push up, and then this comes off pretty easily. Alright, so now we're ready to take the air intake off, and it should come off fairly easily. As long as that's loose, you can wiggle this out, and whole thing should come right off in one big piece. Okay, I'm over on the other side of the engine now, and you can see that we have the main belt here. This is the tensioner that we're going to be working with. I have a belt removal tool, but in this case, in this engine, there's enough room in here that you can work on, just get a socket on here. This is a 15 millimeter, so you want a 15 millimeter. And we're just going to be getting enough on this spring-loaded belt tensioner to get the belt off. Now in this case, once you get that on there, you're going to want to push it forward. Don't pull, push it forward, and you can see that we get enough slack now, and the belt will slide off there. And then you can release that, and now your belt is loose and you can take it off. So the first thing we're going to do is remove this belt tensioner here. Okay, so here's the tensioner pulley on the engine. You can see the 2 bolts, they're 15 millimeters. There's one down here that you're going to be accessing, and then the other one you can kind of see it's right over here. So just get your socket out and take out both of these. So I'll try to do this, but I'm probably going to need both hands to do this, but basically just removing both of these bolts, both of these 15mm bolts. Alright, I'm able to get this one pretty easily. They're torqued to about, I think it's 37 foot-pounds. So I've got this one loose. Now I'm going to see if I can get this one, but I think I'm going to need a little bit of an extension on this side to get to it because the tensioner's the pulley's kind of in the way, so I'm going to get a little bit of an extension in order to reach that side. Now I've got an extension on this one, so once I get it on there, you can see that those two come off. So I'm going to take this off, and then we'll move over to the Idler Pulley. Alright, so I've got the new Idler Pulley here. I'm sorry, the tensioner pulley. Got the new one. I've got the two same bolts. So it's very simple. You're just going to put it back in the same with the same two bolts. You don't do anything else. Just put both of these back in, and then we're going to tighten them up. We're going to put them. We're going to torque them to factory spec, and then we'll be done with one of the pulleys. So again, we'll just tighten that up with the torque wrench. Once you get them tight, then you can just torque them down again. My torque wrench, I'm just going to go 37 foot-pounds. There we go on that one, and I'm going to use the extension on the other one. Alright, so I've got that torque down, and we're finished with one pulley, and we just need to do the other one. Okay, so getting to the other pulley is a little more difficult. The first one's easy to access. The second one, you see where we are, we're zooming down here, and it is down here. So this is the one we're going to be removing. This is the Idler Pulley. We just basically have to take out this, I think it's a 15mm bolt. So there's only one of them. So that makes it a little bit easier. We just need to get our socket in there. And the belt's already loose because we took the belt off. The belt's already loose. We just need to reach in here with the socket and take that out. Now the good thing is there is enough room in here to work to get your socket in there. It's not too bad to be able to get in there. And it doesn't take that much to loosen it up. So it's loose now. I'm just going to take the rest of it off by hand and pull that pulley out. Alright, I got that one out. And the new one actually came with the bolt and everything, so it's really just a direct swap. You take that one out and you put this one in. You probably need to get a light in here to see exactly where the hole is. That's going to be the hard part, is reaching in there. Find the hole and screw this back in. So it's not going to be very helpful to kind of show you from here, but it's going back in the same bolt hole down here, and I'm going to screw that in. Okay, I got that in there, and all I'm going to do is just tighten this by hand as far as I can get it in there, and then I'm just going to, again, I'm going to tighten that up with the torque wrench, again to the same 37 foot-pounds, and then we will be done with both pulleys. We just need to put the belt back on and the air intake. Alright, I've got my torque wrench on here. I can see I already got it up to torque spec. Now, next step is where we put the belt back on. Now, the important thing is to know the belt routing. So you can either, before you do this, take pictures or get a diagram of the belt. Now, in this case, if you weren't changing the belt, you wouldn't have to really remove the belt itself, so it's a little bit simpler. But in this case, I'm changing the belt as well, so I've got the routing diagram of where the belt goes before I take it off, so that you know where it goes. It's going to go up on here. It's going to go under the big crankshaft pulley there, and then it kind of goes over to the other side of the engine. goes underneath the water pump, and the power goes over the power steering pump on the other side of the engine. So make sure you know where it goes, and then take off the old belt. It should slide right off. And sometimes it might be a little bit tight down at the bottom underneath the crankshaft pulley, but just reach down and kind of turn the belt sideways so you can slip it through any of these. There's a pretty good amount of room to get through there. If you can kind of see down in there now where I'm pulling that up, so you can pull the belt up there. Okay, now I'm going to pull it off the pulleys on the other side of the engine. I should be able to just pull this belt out. Now I'm on the other side of the engine here. You can see with the alternator, it's already loose. I'm just going to slide it off that and push it down there. Push it down in there so that we can pull it out the other side. Make sure it clears the steering pump pulley and that. So there, now it's loose. We should be able to just pull it out. Okay, I got the old belt out. I'm going to put the new belt in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on this side of the engine, and I'm going to kind of feed it down in through here. If I can put it in there. Alright. Now, so the tightest squeeze for everything is kind of getting the belt down there under the power steering pump. As you can see, there's not a lot of room in between there, so I kind of have to turn the belt sideways with my hands and flip it down underneath this power steering pump pulley that you're looking at right there. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll put it over the rest of the pulleys. Okay, I got the belt routed mostly under that power steering pulley. It's going to come up over here, and then it's going to the water pump. Now on the other side of that, the belt's going to come up underneath this pulley here, and it's going to go over the top of that new pulley there, where you can see the shiny bolt. So once I have it go underneath this, I'm going to come up and route it over the top of that. Okay, I got the belt routed correctly now. It goes under there, under the power steering. It goes over the new pulley here. It comes over the top of this, goes under the water pump, and I'll show you the rest from the other side. After it goes over our new pulley there, it goes under the crankshaft pulley, and you might have to kind of twist the belt sideways to get it down in that gap there, but make sure it goes under there. Make sure it's all centered. Now the next to last step of putting this on is taking the again, the belt tensioner. We're gonna move it so it has enough slack to get this belt on, then we'll check it all. Okay, again, I'm going to push this up. If everything is centered correctly, you should have just enough slack to get this belt on here. And I can feel it kind of get the edges in there, and then release it, and it tightens up the belt. Now, the last thing we're going to do on this step is to, again, go through and check every pulley in here, starting with this one, and I'm going to feel with my hands on every pulley underneath to make sure it's centered. Double and triple check to make sure everything's centered. Okay, so I'm going to put this locking tab back in, and you can see this goes on here, and put that back in, slide it in till you hear a click, then push the locking tab back in, make sure everything's tight and that it doesn't pull out, and just tighten up the clamp on here, and we are ready. We're ready to test the new belt and pulleys. Okay, so engine sounds great, no more squeaking.